When a woman starts cheating, it never begins with some grand reveal. It always begins with something small, something subtle, but powerful enough that if you catch it, you'll know exactly what's going on before it spirals out of control. I am Jane, and I'm going to talk to you the way I would if you were sitting right in front of me, one-on-one, asking, Jane, how can I really know when a woman has started cheating? Listen carefully, because these are the first cracks that show, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. And if you're serious about understanding women on a deeper level, subscribe right now, because I don't just skim the surface here. I tell you the truths most people are too afraid to say out loud. Let's start with the very first sign. 1. Sudden protectiveness over her phone. This one has become the #1 giveaway in our modern world, and it's no accident. When a woman starts seeing another man, her phone becomes the lifeline of that secret. Messages, pictures, calls, location sharing, everything runs through that device. And the moment cheating enters the picture, she treats that phone like it's her second skin. You'll notice subtle but drastic changes. Maybe she used to leave her phone on the table without thinking twice, but now, it's always face down. She doesn't just leave it lying around. She guards it like treasure. Sometimes she suddenly adds a new password. Or worse, the password changes without you being told. Try to pick it up casually, maybe to check the time or see a notification, and watch the panic flash across her face. That panic isn't about privacy, it's about exposure. And here's the truth. Modern cheating lives and dies on the phone. If you see a sudden shift in how she handles that device, you're not being paranoid. You're picking up on a signal she hopes you'll ignore. If this already hit close to home, like this video right now, because too many men walk blind into this trap, and one small action like yours might help another man open his eyes. And keep watching, because while the phone might be the first battlefield, it's not the only one. The next change shows up in her words, her tone, her conversations. And once you notice it, you'll understand the distance growing right in front of you. 2. The change in communication patterns. When cheating begins, communication is the next thing to shift. It doesn't always happen overnight, but the decline is real. Texts become shorter. Calls get fewer. The warmth in her voice, it fades. Instead, excuses pile up. Where she once used to ask about your day with genuine interest, now it feels forced or missing altogether. She might tell you she's busy, tired, distracted. And yes, life gets busy. But pay attention to the consistency of her excuses. Body language follows the same pattern. That lean in, that eye contact, the playful smile during conversations, suddenly it's replaced by distance. Crossed arms. Coldness. Silence where there used to be connection. And here's the psychology behind it. A woman who's just stepped into cheating is juggling two identities. With you, she has to keep up the act. With him, she's giving the excitement and energy. Something has to give, and it almost always shows up in how she talks to you. Have you ever noticed her communication shift before the truth finally came out? Comment below. Your story might just save another man from ignoring the same signs. And keep watching, because communication isn't the end of it. Once she grows careless, there's always a slip, a mistake that exposes more than she intended. And when it happens, that's when the mask begins to crack. So far, we've talked about the phone, how suddenly guarding it with her life can be the first and clearest sign. And then we looked at communication, how her words, tone, and body language begin to shift. Now, I want to take you deeper, because no matter how careful she tries to be, there's always a slip. Always. And if you're paying attention, that slip will tell you everything you need to know. 3. The first concrete slip. Cheating never stays clean. A woman who steps into that world has to juggle lies, excuses, and timelines. And no matter how clever she thinks she is, details eventually start to collide. It usually begins with something small. She tells you she was at her friend's place, but the story doesn't quite add up. Later, she mentions being at a different location at the same time. You might notice time gaps. Maybe she says she left work at 6, but somehow she didn't arrive home until 8, with no clear explanation. Here's the hard part. Most men overlook these contradictions. Why? Because they want to trust. They want to believe her story. So instead of questioning it, they push the thought aside, convincing themselves they're just imagining things. But let me tell you this, if her words don't line up, there's a reason. Lies are harder to maintain than the truth. The truth stays consistent, but lies require constant memory, and eventually the cracks begin to show. Think of it like a mask. At first, she holds it tightly in place, but the longer she wears it, the heavier it gets. And one day, without even realizing it, she lets it slip. And here's what's even more revealing. When you calmly point out the inconsistency, watch her reaction. A guilty woman will become defensive, even angry. She might flip the script, accuse you of being insecure or controlling. That's not clarity, that's deflection. This is where a lot of men fail. They take the blame instead of recognizing the truth. Don't do that. If you see the contradictions stacking up, pay attention. She's showing you more than she wants you to see. Keep watching, because the most intimate shift, the one that cuts the deepest, doesn't happen in her phone or her words. It happens in her body, in the way she shows up in your bedroom. And when that changes, you'll feel it in your bones. 4. Shifts in sexual energy. This one is painful, but I need you to hear it. When a woman begins cheating, her sexual energy almost always changes. And it can go in two very different directions. For some women, guilt takes over. They feel dirty, conflicted, ashamed. And because of that guilt, they pull away from you physically. They avoid intimacy. Suddenly, she's too tired, not in the mood, too stressed. Nights that used to be close and warm become cold and distant. For others, it's the opposite. Instead of guilt shutting them down, the excitement of the new man overflows. They bring that heightened energy back into the bedroom with you. Suddenly, she's more adventurous, more hyper, more intense than usual. At first, you might think it's a good thing. But ask yourself, where is this energy really coming from? Here's the painful truth. Both extremes are red flags. Coldness and avoidance signal disconnection. Sudden, out-of-character hyperness signals that something external is feeding her fire. Either way, the balance has shifted, and it didn't happen by accident. And let me be clear, women rarely sustain the same sexual rhythm when another man enters the picture. There will be a change. Sometimes subtle, sometimes dramatic. But if you've been paying attention to her body, you will feel the difference. If this insight is striking something inside you right now, like this video, not for me, but for the community of men who need to see these truths. When you like, it tells the algorithm to push this message to more men who might otherwise stay blind. Now, I want to ask you something deeply personal. Have you ever noticed this exact shift in the bedroom, in her energy, only to realize later what it really meant? Comment below and share your experience, because your words could be the mirror another man needs to see his own situation clearly. Cheating doesn't announce itself. It whispers. It hides in little changes, a guarded phone, a colder tone, a slip in her story, a shift in her intimacy. And unless you open your eyes, you'll miss it until it's too late. That's why I tell you this, as if you were sitting right here with me. Because I don't want you to be the man who ignores his gut. I want you to be the man who sees clearly, who acts with strength, who refuses to stay blind. And in just a moment, I'll close this out with something important. I'll tie all of this together, and I'll tell you exactly why these first signs matter more than anything else. Now, let's bring this all together. Because by now, you're probably realizing that cheating never just appears out of nowhere. It starts small. It grows quietly. And before the big betrayals come, these first signs always show themselves. Let's recap the 4 signs we've walked through today. Sudden protectiveness over her phone. She guards it, hides it, changes passwords, and panics if you touch it. Because in today's world, cheating doesn't live in the bedroom first, it lives in the palm of her hand. The change in communication patterns. Conversations grow colder, excuses pile up, texts and calls drop off. Her body language flips, and suddenly, the warmth that once felt natural feels forced or absent. The first concrete slip. Contradictions creep in. Timelines don't match. Little lies reveal themselves. And when you point them out, her defensiveness speaks louder than her words. Shifts in sexual energy. The most intimate betrayal. She either grows distant, shutting down intimacy, or suddenly bursts with uncharacteristic energy, fueled not by you, but by someone else. These four aren't random. They're a sequence, a pattern that repeats over and over again. Different women, same steps. And if you've been through it, you know how real it feels. Here's what I want you to understand. Catching these signs doesn't mean you automatically end the relationship. What it means is you finally see things clearly. You're no longer in the dark, no longer convincing yourself it's all in your head. And clarity is power. Clarity gives you choices. You can confront her. You can step back and observe more. You can decide if you're going to walk away with dignity or if you're going to test her honesty. But you can't do any of that if you're still blind. That's why I'm here, speaking to you directly, as if you were sitting across from me in a counseling session. Because I know how easy it is to doubt yourself, to second-guess your instincts. And I also know how devastating it is to realize you missed the signs that were right in front of you all along. So take this as a moment of truth. If you've noticed one of these signs, don't ignore it. If you've noticed two, don't rationalize it away. And if you've noticed all four, then deep down, you already know the answer you've been afraid to admit. Now, I want to bring this back to you, because this isn't just about listening to me. It's about men supporting each other, learning from each other, and refusing to go through this in silence. So here's my question for you, and it's a serious one. Which of these signs have you seen in your own life? Was it the phone, the communication shifts, the slips, or the changes in intimacy? Comment below and share it. Not just for me, but for the next man who comes here, hurting and confused, wondering if he's crazy. Your story could be the proof he needs to trust his gut. And when you leave that comment, you're not just telling your story, you're helping build a space where men stop suffering alone. I am Jane.